Hello everyone, Matt Yassa here. We'll be talking about safety today, talking about techniques, equipment, and different things to do and avoid. And one thing I've heard a few times is people that are looking into it, they kind of think it might be dangerous. And even though you have to be cautious when using some of the equipment, overall, we don't take risks. It's a very controlled environment. We keep things as safe as possible by prepping our workstations in the area and also practicing just good techniques. And we'll get into that right now. And we'll first talk about the Didinium glasses, which are very important, often very expensive too, but they protect your eyes against the sodium flare, the orange glow, which you might have seen in the last couple videos of Glassmith, because I have not been using the Didinium lens on the camera. Now, the other thing you have to keep in mind that these glasses don't actually provide you the UV protection that a darkening shade of glass will. And so then you can get a pair of add-ons or even a face mask, or just get the UV coating added onto the Didinium. And in my opinion, I think it might be better to layer the protection, with different pairs instead of having just one shade. Just because I find that these outside shades or my face mask gets very hot when working on a large project and you're closer towards the flame. And it is a little bit convenient to be able to flip these up and look at your project too, I find. So one important thing to do is to fireproof your workstation. I have a stainless steel plate here on this pull-out drawer, and then I have my 1 square foot graphite plate. And then over here, I got a few sheets of aluminum, and also, of course, under my desk, it's fireproof, concrete floors, concrete walls back there. This is very important because the most problematic pieces of glass I find are the ones that roll right under the desk. Usually it'll take, half a minute or so to get to them. And one thing I haven't found a lot of people talking about is the water bucket or your scrap bucket. It helps to have a fireproof container full of water to just immediately cool down the hot scraps. So I went with this 12-inch stainless steel mud pan. And I think it's for like drywall or laying bricks, but it's working well for my uses. All right, so next up, let's talk about ventilation. I built this hood myself using some pretty basic materials. This is just like an air conditioning vent section. Those pieces they put in the wall to direct the air conditioning through. They come in half pieces, and then they put the two halves together. But what I did was I just took one of those pieces and then cut over here a bit and bent it. And then I cut the sides and bent those over. And after that, I got a couple elbows up here and got hooked up to my exhaust fan. And I'll show you that next. Now here's an 8-inch 200-watt squirrel cage fan. They can do as exhaust or intake. You just mount it backwards. They are very powerful. They create a lot of suction. And it's a good idea to get a very powerful one at your workstation to get that bubble trash. Now, to get the most efficiency out of this fan as you can, it's a good idea to get an intake fan, which will help bring air, fresh air, towards this one. I'm gonna go ahead and plug it in. So I think it's working. All right, and now let's real quickly talk tanks. This kind of covers a little bit of the oxygen tanks, but this is mostly gonna be propane. As for one, both tanks need regulators. These take the high pressure of the tank, which is anywhere from 1200 to 2000 psi, and reduces it down to 30 or 5 psi. And then you'll want to get a flame arrestor, which will protect against the flame coming back through the tube and into your tank. You can get them on the torch too instead of on the tank. So you have a diaphragm here that reduces the pressure, and you have a key here. And this pushes down on that diaphragm to open it up to allow the pressure through. Now, when you open up the tank, you want to make sure the regulator is closed, as that quick pressure might damage the regulator. So then with the regulator closed, we're going to open it up. You'll see real quick, this first one will go to the pressure in the tank, which right now is at 800 PSI. And as you turn the key to open up the regulator, you'll see an increase on this one, and that will be your line pressure, everything past the regulator. So I'll go ahead and open it up to 5. And now before I start my torch, I'm gonna check all my knobs just to make sure they're all off. Go ahead and turn on the center stage of my propane a little bit and get about a 6-inch flame. Now it's recommended not to use a handheld lighter in case it would explode in your hand, but a barbecue one or a sparker works just fine. Now once that's on, I'll turn on my oxygen. It'll turn into a nice blue flame. And working on a cylinder of oxygen, you'll have to adjust the oxygen up as you adjust the propane to get a nice even mix. But if you're running with concentrators, one easy method to work with is just to turn the oxygen all the way up, since you don't want to restrict the concentrator anyway, as it needs to constantly run. And one good tip to practice before putting any blow tubes to your mouth, rub your finger across it just to make sure it's not sharp or hot. And then one important tip that you should always practice when working with glass is any hot glass or hot tools, you want to point the hot ends away from you and the cool end towards you, because a natural instinct is just to pick up the end that's closest to us or even towards the middle, and you really don't want to burn yourself if that was the hot end. And also a good rule of thumb that I like to adhere to is if I do practice the safety technique of pointing the ends away from me, it means I also don't heat up the opposite end and have two ends hot at the same time, because that just defeats the purpose of that safety technique. So I always work on one end at a time. If I need to work on a separate end, I'll just get a new piece of glass. Now, when it comes to cutting glass with a cutting tool, you always want to make sure to use water. You can wet down the area with your finger or just dip your tool into your scrap bucket. And then you'll hold that edge against there, rotate the glass. Then you can get some more water into that crevice and it can help the process. And you basically just want to grab the ends and it snaps like that. And then to turn off the torch, it's just the opposite of the way we turned it on. So when we started it, it was propane and then we added the oxygen. So here we'll turn the oxygen off and then turn the propane off. Now it's a good idea to get one of these, fire extinguisher, not just for your workstation, but even for your house. And a good rule of thumb is to actually place it 5 or 10 feet away from the workstation, not at the workstation, just in case if this whole thing's on fire, you'll be able to get to it over there. And the same thing goes for your propane tank. You shouldn't actually have it next to your bench. It should be, a few feet away. And now, once you're done working, you do want to turn this off. You don't want to leave it on. And I'll show you how to do that real quick. You just first turn off your flow of propane out to the regulator, and then you leave the key engaged. Do not touch the key yet, because you have to turn the torch on in order to bleed the propane out at the torch end. You'll see both pressures have leaked out of both of these dials, and now I can disengage the key. And thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you're a new viewer, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That way you can keep up with the channel and find out what's coming up next. And also, if you have any questions about the video or about the glass blowing process in general, or if there's something you'd like me to make sure to leave it in the comments section below. And don't forget to have a great day.